present. Number 1 on the agenda, commission comments.
Comments? Commissioner?
Do you have one this morning?
Okay, go ahead.
President, I just want to report to my colleagues that Commissioner Soboroff and I met for lunch with the department's transgender working group. This came out of the presentation of the working group about a month ago, at which Commissioner Soboroff offered to take the group to lunch, which he did. And I want to thank him for that. They chose the Cheesecake Factory at the Grove because that's one of the number of restaurants that are working with the transgender community and the LGBT community more generally in hiring people, which is a great help to the community. So I wanted to report that. I wanted to thank Commissioner Soboroff. Also want to thank Chief MacArthur and Chief Kamala who were there, and just acknowledge for the department the extraordinary progress that's been made in a relatively short period of time with the LGBT community and transgender community in particular, and the respectful and constructive nature of the conversation. Commissioner Soboroff in particular offering advice about sort of strategic advice for those active in the community about how to move forward. And I just thought it was a very unusual event, very positive, and I want to thank Commissioner Soboroff and the department for the hard work. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Commissioner Madison? My comments just have to do with over the weekend. Selma, I mean, I, like most of America, was interested in watching carefully, and I was moved. I thought it was, I thought the speeches, I thought the crowds, I thought the history that was brought up, and I thought what needs to be done became evident, and it was, I thought it was historic. I thought it was highly respectful and highly positive, and like the President said, I think he really summed it up in saying how far we've come in 50 years, but how far we have to go. And I thought it was terrific. Okay.
Thank you. Item number 2, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief Beck.
Morning, Chief.
Good morning, Commissioners. I did not go to lunch with Steve Soboroff this week. I did go to breakfast with the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast, and Saturday, this coming Saturday, the department will host the Cesar Chavez breakfast. It's a great event in memory of a great man, a good opportunity to come together with a very important segment of our community and build partnerships. Look forward to that this Saturday. As we continue to deal with crime in the city, for the first time this year, I'm able to report a reduction in homicides. We're down 7.1% as compared to last year, and over 15% as compared to the year prior. To give you an idea what the numbers are, that's we've had 39 this year as opposed to 42 at the same time last year. We are up very slightly in rapes, and that's the new category of rapes. It includes various other sexual assaults as defined by the FBI's new standards. We're up less than 1%. Up significantly in robberies, 22%, and significantly in aggravated assaults, 34%. Burglaries were up 28%. Motor vehicle theft, 15%. Burglary theft from vehicle also up 15%. And general category theft, personal others, down 3.5%. This gives us a total crime picture for the year so far to date of an increase of 13% compared to last year, and 7% compared to 2013, and about even with 2012. Gang crime, we have an increase of 14% in gang crime. All of our bureaus are showing some increase in crime, with the largest increase in Central Bureau, followed by West Bureau, then South, and then Valley. Traffic collisions, news is somewhat better. Overall traffic collisions are up about 11%, but serious traffic collisions, those involve fatalities or hospitalization injuries, are down 28.6%, so that's a significant improvement. Hit and runs, total hit and runs, those including just primarily including property damage, are up 1.9%. Serious hit and runs, those with the hospitalization, injuries, or fatalities are down 4.5%. Motor vehicles versus pedestrian traffic accidents are down across the board, with the most significant decrease in those that require hospitalization or are fatal of 20%. Bicycle-involved accidents are also down across the board, and the most serious of those are down 33%. We have 9,914 police officers on payroll and over 400 level 1, 2, and 3 reserves. We have specialist volunteers numbering 373, chaplain counselors numbering 62. We have 2,709 civilian personnel and 568 civilian vacancies. Cadets, we have 6,074. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, we do have 2 public comment cards on this item. We have Najee Ali and Melina Abdullah.
Good morning, Chief Beck, members of the Police
Morning, sir.
Commission. I'm Najee Ali, Political Director of the National Action Network, LA chapter, founded by Reverend Al Sharpton. And on behalf of our organization, we are respectfully asking Chief Beck and the Commission to release the audio and video transmissions of what happened last Sunday concerning the shooting death of the man we call Brother Africa down on Skid Row. The department, the commission, and Chief Soboroff, who led the campaign and fight for body cameras, wanted it to be an extra layer of protection for the community. I believe transparency is also important, which I believe the commission and the chief believes also. The only way the community can get behind that effort of supporting body cameras is with transparency. That includes the release of audio and video tapes when things and encounters happen in the community. I think that's critical if you want the trust of the community. I'm in support of the fellow activists who are demanding justice for Africa, and we're going to continue to monitor investigation. In my closing, I actually want to commend Commissioner Soboroff for his comments on Selma. That was a historic moment 50 years ago, but let's not forget that moment in history, which we all remember, celebrate and commemorate this past weekend. It was historic because of the police violence against minorities. That's why it's historic. 50 years later, we still have police violence. So we don't have to go down to Selma to commemorate. We also have police violence in our city, which we need to end. So let's remember Selma is still going today, right around the corner on Skid Row. Thank you for giving me time to speak.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Melina Abdullah. I'm an organizer with Black Lives Matter, and I'm speaking to this item because I noticed that there's one glaring omission in Chief Beck's report. I would like next time Chief Beck gives a report to report on the number of killer cops who've been disciplined by LAPD. Because I think that the community wants to know why police are allowed to kill our community members with impunity, and there is absolutely no accountability. There's no accountability in the killing of Brother Africa. There is no accountability in the execution of Ezell Ford. And your job, Chief Beck, is to hire and fire and discipline police officers under your charge, and you are refusing to do that. So your next report needs to include how you are doing your job. You won't even look up as I'm speaking to you. You won't even look up as you work for me. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me. I don't work for you. You work for me. And you all sit here with these smug looks. You sit here and give flowery language about how you're going to investigate these crimes, and you are not investigating them. We still have no action on any of the 609 people who've been killed by law enforcement in the last 10 years. You all are not doing your jobs. You all are supposed to be a citizens commission. You're supposed to represent us. You're not supposed to be a representative of a chief who clearly does not care about this community. And you sat here last week talking about how this is not Ferguson. This is not Ferguson. This is Los Angeles with its own horrid, vile, criminal record of policing, and you all have the power to change it, so you need to do that, and that's why I'm speaking to you now. I'm demanding that the police commission and the chief act on behalf of the community that you're supposed to protect and serve, not occupy.
Thank you for your opinion.
Okay, we have an additional card on this item. We have Mr. Ted Hayes.
Welcome, Mr. Hayes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to address the library. At one time, that library we had at Parker Center was open to everyone, particularly students and those who were interested in criminology, penology, or anything like that. But when we had an agenda item to have a library associated with a debriefing department for people involved in homicides as witnesses, whatever you call it, what is that library, and is that going to be the same kind of library we had previously at Parker Center, where the public could go there, students could go there, and anyone interested in anything that relates to criminology, go there? That's the concern. The other concern, Chief, is the policy, if there is one, about shooting at a fleeing felon, unarmed, just fleeing, and probably shooting that person in the back as occurred last week. What is the policy on shooting a fleeing suspect? I recall an instance where a senior woman, Caucasian, was driving a car and simply would not stop. And so the police officer shot and killed her. And I don't know whether it was under circumstances that they believed that the woman was a felon fleeing them, or something wanted to find a means to make her stop driving. So is there a possible way, perhaps I can talk to Mr. Tiefak about this if he has that information, what the policy might be as far as shooting a fleeing, unarmed suspect? And it didn't make much comment because I believe the suspect was not black, so his life was not questionable as far as mattering. But what is the policy the department has about shooting an unarmed fleeing suspect?
Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
Thank you. We're now on item number 3, the report of the Executive Director, Mr. Tiefenk.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the Commission. Just one brief agenda item. The department has requested that item 8E as in Edward be removed from the agenda. The department will come back with a different report at a later date, and that concludes my report. So that's item 8E as in Edward.
Thank you. We're now on item number 4, the report of the Inspector General, Mr. Bustamante.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just a brief update on our investigation into the officer-involved shooting on Skid Row involving a gentleman by the name of Africa. As you were aware, Commissioners, my investigators were at the scene of the event and monitored the department's investigation. We've also obtained all the video, including the body camera video, and we've been examining that video, including the individual who was a victim of the crime and his statements about what occurred, which is captured on the video, and are attempting to slow down the video so that we can determine the sequence of events and who did what and what the timing of that is. This past Sunday, 2 members of my staff with LAPD's Force Investigative Division went to San Pedro, 5th and 6th Streets to search for witnesses to the shooting. We wore our OIG raid jackets, just a thin layer jacket with big letters OIG on the back. And we identified ourselves as members of the Office of Inspector General. The street was busy. We talked to approximately 100 people that day. We found 18 individuals that had identified themselves as seeing a portion or all of the shooting. We interviewed them, and those interviews were on tape. The general view that at least my staff and FID had reported back was that everybody was very cooperative, and everything at that scene when we went and talked to everyone was very fruitful, and the people were very happy to see us there, and we gave our information so they could contact us if they had anything else in the future. So I believe the canvassing effort was actually quite productive. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We do have one public comment card on this item. We have Mr. Michael Hunt. Okay, he's coming from the overflow room, so we'll give him a moment.
Okay.
If I might just make a comment while we're waiting. I just want to thank the Inspector General for that information, both for us, commissioners, and for the public, about what his office is doing with respect to that investigation, which will eventually lead up to our review of it. I want to thank you for what you've done and for explaining where we are in the process.
My question is, did your review also include or have access to information regarding the
Test 1, 2.
excuse me for a second, the initial encounter, the discussion between the officers and the people in the area, including all of them.
Well, the video we have 2 on-body videos that we have reviewed, and one shows a supervisor very early on going and talking to the victim of the crime, who identifies the individual that the officers later go and make contact with. The other video is from an officer, and it's a different vantage point. It comes a little bit later, but it does capture and show the totality of the contact, and shows it from beginning to end. And that, with the YouTube video that was taken by a private citizen, really gives us kind of quite a bit of information to examine.
Sir, welcome.
Mr. Hunt, please.
Yes, my name is Michael Hunt. I'm calling on the Inspector General's office to do a better job and to provide better services for the Los Angeles Police Department. And I will be talking on public comment regarding some of the issues. Thank you, Michael Hunt.
Thank you, sir.
We also have Adam Rice, and he's also coming from the overflow room.
Okay. If there are people collectively coming from the overflow room, can you call them together? Okay, thanks. Yeah, also they can sit here. They can. I think you can let people, if you can see how many seats we have and let people from the overflow room come in, it would save a lot of time. Can we do that? Pardon me? Okay. Wait, let me, you know what, I'll handle them. I'll handle the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. We're now on item number 5.
Sir, there's some empty seats in here, so if some of the people in the overflow room want to come in. Okay.
He would like to speak on item number 9.
Okay, good. Thank you.
We're now on item number 5. Item number 5 consists of information items and filed items relative to noise variances and special event permits submitted for the period ending March 6, 2015. Item number 6, presentations. Do we have any presentations?
None today.
Thank you. Item number 7, consent agenda items. These items are considered to be routine and non-controversial, upon which the board is provided with adequate information for approval without inquiry or discussion. Would a commissioner wish to pull an item as special for discussion?
Nope.
Move approval of item 7A.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're now on item number 8, regular agenda items. Does a commissioner wish to pull an item as special for discussion? 8C, D, F through K?
Well, C,
I'd like to hold item I.
and C we need to make a decision on, so we need to pull, don't we? I mean, there were two options there, Mr. Tiefenk?
There's a public comment card, I believe, on item C also, so you'll need to pull it for that.
Okay. Rob, you said aye?
I. So I move approval of items D, F, G, H, J, K.
Right. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we have 8A now, 8B coming up, and then 8C and
Okay,
8I.
we will begin with 8A, verbal presentation and update from the commanding officer and Community Police Advisory Board representative regarding community-initiated problem-solving, crime strategies, and other programs and goals within the Hollywood area.
Morning. Thanks for taking the time to come down.
Commissioners, Chief, Inspector General, Mr. Tiefenk, thank you for allowing us to come and give you an overview of our Hollywood CPAD program. For 2015, we've established a few goals that we're working towards. The first and most ambitious of which would be our station beautification. As you know, our station's one of the oldest and has got a lot of maintenance issues, and the front of the station has kind of fallen into a overgrown state and dying grass and so forth. So We are initiating an effort to clean that up and beautify it. We've gotten estimate on costs, and we are seeking donations to make that happen through our Hollywood Police Support Association, which is our fundraising arm of CPAB. Prior completed efforts that have greatly improved the conditions at Hollywood include a beautiful new break room that was done a little over a year ago, and new gym facilities that are as good as the news station's gyms. And last year we put in a mat room for arrest and control practice. So in that light, our next step is this beautification of the front. Another effort we want to...
Water conservative, right?
We're going to try to do water neutral with no water. A lot of decomposed granite
That's
and rocks.
as conservative as it gets.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Another effort we're trying to bring back, it was at the request of our first meeting this year, the board members remembered an effort that we'd done in the past called Coffee with Cops. Basically getting out there, instead of just having the CPAB meetings, 7 a year at the station, we want to go out there and try to get people that don't typically show up to a CPAB meeting to come out and interface with our cops. So we'll be doing that starting DP4, about every other DP. We're also getting our senior lead presentations to the CPAB board meetings, back to basics, trying to focus on efforts to increase our neighborhood watch participation. And we also had a very successful autism training provided just this past week, Tuesday, March 3rd. One of our CPAB members, Milagros Lizarraga, is involved in the department's efforts to train officers on autism, and we did train about 60 of our own officers. And finally, our nightclub CPAB has been a very successful effort in years past, and we're definitely continuing with that. One of the major focuses of our nightclub CPAB is maintaining order in the entertainment district with all the club activities going on. And one of the efforts we're putting forward this year is fundraising through the Police Foundation and other private donations to fund our own slammer van or B-Wagon to help us to get more of the just overwhelming problems with drunken public that we have under control. So with that, I'd like to turn over to my co-chair, Gary Minzer.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chief
Morning.
Bab, Mr. Tiefenk. I'd first like to give you an overview of our Hollywood CPAB. We have approximately 40 community members consisting of representation from the business and residential communities, neighborhood councils, business improvement district, social service organizations, and representatives from our elected officials. We have 7 meetings planned for 2015, plus 2 CPAB town hall meetings, in addition to Hollywood Awareness Day, which is associated with the Gang Resolution Youth Development Program. Our subcommittees consist of emergency preparedness, homeless outreach, and our nightclub committee. I'd like to focus on an emergency preparedness grant we received. The Los Angeles County Community Disaster Resilience Project is a 5-year project with the goal of increasing individual and family preparedness throughout the Los Angeles County. This is part of a national initiative funded by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and is currently one of 4 projects being piloted across the United States. This project is intended to help communities in Los Angeles better prepare for, respond to, and recover from a disaster, emergency, or other significant public health events. Our Hollywood CPAB, along with the Hollywood Hills West Neighborhood Council, applied for the grant. 8 communities, including San Fernando, Inglewood, and Palmdale, were selected from approximately 50 applications to participate in the project. Beginning in January of 2013, 8 coalitions within these communities met regularly to learn about and review strategies for emergency preparedness. Coalitions received information and training based on the County of Los Angeles Emergency Survival Guide, which was developed by the Office of Emergency Management, which included resources from other agencies focused on preparedness such as FEMA, Homeland Security, the American Red Cross, and the Emergency Network Los Angeles. Coalitions are working together to develop preparedness plans, which include strategies, information, and resources to share with their community. Members of the Hollywood Coalition included members of neighborhood councils, faith-based organizations, the Red Cross, and senior leads. We received $15,000 a year for the first 3 years to support the program, which our team developed and implemented that's specific for our community. The money was managed by the nonprofit Hollywood Police Support Association, and our coalition determined the programs and handouts which were funded. A portion of the $45,000 has been used to purchase first aid kits, transistor radios, water, gas, turn-off tools, and a few other items which we've given to members of the community at events which we've either initiated or sponsored. We've stocked up on many of these items so that we can use them in the future after the funding ends this year. We also use the money to support CERT training, CPR training, and other emergency preparedness programs. Some of the community events or programs that have been initiated or implemented are as follows. We created an emergency preparedness fair that also included seminars, which were conducted by professional emergency preparedness experts. We underwrote the teen CERT training for the Hollywood LAPD cadets and purchased CERT backpacks for each graduating student. We also underwrote an adult CERT training for over 50 residents of Hollywood and gave each graduate CERT backpacks. We're planning on an additional class for 2015. In addition, we paid for CPR training for 60 members of the community. We have 2 classes scheduled for 2015. And we sponsored the Hollywood Fault Line Town Hall meeting after the state announced their findings. We had approximately 150 in attendance. Next, Captain will give you an update on our youth group programs.
Hollywood has a very robust array of youth programs, starting with our PAL program, which serves over 450 youth. It's the second largest in the city, up behind just Hollenbeck. Our cadets, we have 125 active cadets at this moment and 80 junior cadets. Another very impressive tally. Tomorrow's Future is a youth program it's a after-school study program. It serves about 35 kids per day and has serviced over 300 children since its inception. And then finally, we've tried to get members of each of those programs, PALS, cadets, and our Tomorrow's Future, to participate in teen CPAB meetings. We had 2 of them last year, and we'll continue that effort going forward this year.
The next topic I'd like to discuss with you is development and public safety. Each year, we give you an update to your board regarding Hollywood's resurgence, as development in the Hollywood community is mostly due in part and tied to public safety. Hollywood continues to be the most destination-bound community in the city of Los Angeles with its entertainment and nightlife. Hollywood is truly a 24-hour community with approximately 375 ABC licenses, with 124 of those licenses within the Hollywood Entertainment District. 19 new ABC licenses are pending. A few examples of current development and construction are as follows. Over 1,089,000 square feet are now under construction, the most of any location in LA County, with an additional 811,000 square feet in the pipeline. Columbia Square, the former CBS location at Sunset and Gower, is about to construct a 700,000 square foot project, which one of its major tenants will be Viacom. Sunset Gower's studio development includes a 14-story tower with approximately 315,000 square feet of office space. And the Hollywood 959 project by J.H. Snyder at the former CFI property, this will be an additional 244,000 square feet of creative entertainment office space. Hotel development. Another 10 hotels are being proposed in Hollywood. 2 are under construction with approximately 300 rooms. One of the future hotels is the Dream Hotel at Cahuenga and Selma, 10 stories, 182 rooms, multiple ABC licenses. And residential development. Currently, 1,259 housing apartment units are under construction, with another 5,966 units approved and forthcoming. Once again, it is so important that we focus on the development occurring in Hollywood as it relates to public safety. Office, hotel, residential, and nightlife development continues to increase dramatically, which increases the need for public safety personnel. Speaking for the community, we thank the department and the commission for the officers deployed in the Hollywood Entertainment District. This deployment has proved its value time and time again. And with the continuation of increased development, the addition of more and more ABC licenses, and the increase in growth in Hollywood as the entertainment center, the department must continue to strengthen the public safety infrastructure in the Hollywood community to support the tremendous activity taking place. On behalf of the Hollywood community, I once again would like to thank the department and the commission for playing such a major role in Hollywood's resurgence. And on behalf of Captain Zarcone, thank you for giving us the opportunity to give you an update on our Hollywood CPAB.
Your CPAB is in a hugely diverse community. And I'm wondering how, with your 40 members, number of which are business, do you believe your CPAB reflects the diversity of your community, and your future CPAB will probably be larger, because it sounds like there are a lot of great things happening in the community, and I want to hear about your diversity goals within that CPAB.
I think it reflects the community's diversification in terms of business, residents, social service organizations, as I mentioned. And you are correct. I think as more and more people are coming into Hollywood, in particular with all the residential development taking place, that diversification will continue. The outreach by our senior leads in their various areas is extremely good in terms of bringing in new members to educate them what CPAB can help with. So, I would think that the success of CPAB will continue along those lines in terms of being a well-diversified organization.
Other questions?
Yeah, I just a couple comments. Want to thank you. This is my home area, my home, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing. I know Gary Minzer has been doing this for a very long time, and we all thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And Captain Zarcone, not really new anymore, but newish. And Chief Kamala is here. You have big shoes to fill. Been doing, as far as I'm concerned, doing a great job. And in particular, your outreach to the various communities, your willingness to listen when there have been issues so far, your lack of defensiveness, openness to listening and doing things differently if it's appropriate going forward. And I'm really pleased with that. I continue to be very impressed with the range and depth of the youth programs. And so I thank you for all of that. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner, I'm sorry, Sandy?
I have two questions. One is how do you recruit the youth, and how do you determine whether they go into Pels or cadets or Tomorrow's Future?
It's kind of a multifaceted approach. The Tomorrow's Future kids primarily recruited by the officers working that program at the schools. So they let them know about the program, and it's really for kids that really don't have something else to do after school, and it's in our southeastern corner of the division. The inception of it was based on trying to keep kids away from gang recruitment. With PALS, it's word of mouth. I mean, there's 450 participants, and it's primarily broken up between a huge soccer program and also a very large karate program. And kids, there's a waiting list for both. So it's kids just know about it and want to get into it. It's very popular. And as far as cadets, that's kids more that want to wear the uniform and participate and do things. And recruitment hasn't been a problem. We actually have as many more than we can handle.
Second question around alcohol licenses. There's a lot of homeless kids, mentally ill. It's always been one of my issues. And yet there seems to be more and more licenses being approved. I get development and wanting it to stay a destination where people want to come, but how are you managing all of that? I know, for example, in Hollenbach, they made a presentation. Their CPAB decided that they would not support new licenses or on an individual basis, depending on where it's going to be located. So how does Hollywood deal with that?
Yes, ma'am. My philosophy, and I've stated it at our nightclub CPABs, I've told everybody, I think I've developed a reputation for being kind of anti-club licenses. The 48 licenses that are not for a restaurant are basically not going to be supported. We don't support that. The ones that do want to apply as a 47 license as a restaurant, we're putting very, very strict conditions on those to make sure that they are a bona fide restaurant that doesn't have the ability to morph or evolve into a de facto club. We've got a couple that we're working on right now that are exactly that. They're 47 licenses from years past that didn't have these restrictive conditions put on them, and they're kind of functioning as a 48 club, not as a restaurant anymore. So we're trying to get those shut down. So to answer your question, when we do approve one, it's to improve the quality of life in Hollywood and an actual restaurant, and other than that, we're saying no.
How about those that are grandfathered in?
If they're grandfathered in, we try to manage them as best we can, and for instance, if they commit violations that we can cite, we definitely aggressively go after that.
Thank you.
Yeah, good points.
I have two questions. One is, when you say you don't support the licenses, does that mean that they come under greater scrutiny, that there's a higher hurdle for them to pass, or they are not awarded licenses? What's the...
Unfortunately, ma'am, I'm not the final authority. ABC will grant it or not grant it based on the zoning administrator for the city gets input as well. But the zoning administration hearing is where we voice our concern. And we've been pretty successful in getting people to, especially ones that want a 47 license, they're willing to accede to the conditions.
Thank you. And Mr. Minzer, my question has to do with diversity, and I think you kind of answered Commissioner Soberoff's question, but mine has to do with the CPAB composition, racial diversity, and gender self-identification or sexual self-identification. And I asked that one from the perspective of the numbers of instances that I have read about or become aware of regarding assault upon transgendered people.
I don't have statistics for you, of course, but I can tell you based on our membership and our roster that it is extremely diverse relative to all the categories, should I say, that you just spoke about. We are constantly reaching out, and particularly through social service organizations and through the various avenues that we have, to make sure that our CPAB is well represented in those areas. And is there room for improvement? Absolutely. I would agree with you. However, I do believe that we make that concerted effort to make that happen. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I realize I do have one more question, which is, could you just explain a little bit about the junior cadet program? I think I'm pretty familiar with the cadet program, and I'm not sure I have an idea of what I think it might be, but it would help me to understand what.
Yes, sir. We have 80 junior cadets, and what they are is just cadets in training, so to speak. It's younger kids.
Younger?
Exactly. So it's
Roughly
basically
the age range for those.
The junior cadets go up to, I believe, age 12. Right. And they are basically doing the same sorts of things as the cadets. They do a little bit of formations and drill, teach them how to march, and then they have classes. It's more or less to kind of get them primed and ready for the cadet program.
Right. And then, thank you. And then just one comment in response to Commissioner Figueroa-Villa's questions. One of the most instructive evenings I've spent was a ride along with the Hollywood Vice doing restaurant ABC type things, and was impressed with their knowledge of the community, their familiarity with the different locations, and in most instances how well they were received by the business owners who appreciated what they were doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have two public comment cards on this item. We have Suzette Shaw and Mr. Tut Hayes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Inspector General. Yes, my name is Suzette Shaw, and I am a Skid Row resident. I'm speaking in regards to just the issues in our community. I'm also a member of Los Angeles Community Action Network, and I'm here to speak today in regards to respectfully asking that you and demanding that you all include us as Skid Row residents and the community leaders.
Can I ask you to do? We'll let you go first in public comment, but this is against. We're supposed to be talking about this Hollywood situation right now. So we'll put you up on public comment as number one, okay?
Oh, okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Hayes?
Let's talk Hollywood, Mr. Hayes.
Beg pardon?
Let's talk Hollywood.
I have a Hollywood story.
Okay. That you do.
Cinerama Dome. They had a premiere opening there on a dark and stormy night. Believe me, raining. And I was going toward Amoeba, you know what they are, record place. And the sidewalk in front of Cinerama was blocked off. But there were no limousines there, no stars there, no celebrities there. The police just blocked everything off and told me I had to go around the block to get to Cinerama or cross the street that had no crosswalk. A dark and stormy night in Hollywood, walking across the street. No. So I insisted on walking across the place, and one of my multitude of numerous arrests occurred. And I was taken to the Hollywood station, and I carried on quite a bit because I wasn't feeling happy about the whole thing. So I just want to say this about what I've heard. We have a race to the bottom because there's a move to have street vending in Hollywood. Street vending, the same kind of thing you might see on Alvarado and Rocha Boulevard. Can't let that happen. We can't become a third world country with people with push carts and whatever else they might have vending. And that is something they wish to do in Hollywood because there's lots of traffic there, lots of tourists and other people who might buy your wares. So I would hope that you have some kind of policy about street vending and how it's carried on. Never mind Batman and Superman. We want to know about whether you want to suppress the street vending that might occur in Hollywood because that's one of the first designated places a lot of vendors look at. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
There are no other comment cards, sir.
Let's move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your service.
Okay, we're now on item 8B, verbal presentation and discussion from the department relative to the current policy for department's employees' participation in the annual Gay Pride Parade and the feasibility of a commission-sponsored reception prior to the upcoming Chiefs LGBTQ Forum.
Good morning. Sandy Jo MacArthur.
Commander Beatrice Gramala.
So we don't have a written policy per se specific to this issue, so I thought it would be best if I gave you a little bit of a historical overview and where we are today. The first uniformed individual from the police department walked in the parade in 1994. And his name was Sergeant Grobeson, Mitch Grobeson. It was officially sanctioned. That was before it was officially sanctioned the following year, with Chief Gates sanctioning officers could could go walk the parade in uniform, but on an off-duty basis. And then 1995 is also the first time we had two commanders on the department that rode in the parade with several city officials. In 1995, Lisa Phillips, Mark Goodman, and Paul Butler were our three officers who actually walked in the parade in uniform. And there were several others who walked in the parade but not in uniform. It was a difficult time at the time for our LG community on the department. Lisa Phillips actually ended up being our very first department liaison to the LGBT community. She was an officer at the time, and for many years that position was held by an officer. It was, and also after that first in 1995, there was a slow roll on additional officers choosing to walk it on an off-duty basis in uniform, and there has been as many as 25 and 30 officers walking in the parade. One of the reasons it's an off-duty, it's only done on an off-duty basis is because it's not in our jurisdiction, and that has been the quasi-policy, because as I said, there's not really a written policy since 1995. It was approximately 2005 or 6, right in that arena, we couldn't pinpoint it, when Chief William Bratton decided that he wanted to elevate the liaison position to a command level position. And the first individual in that position was Assistant Chief Jimmy McDonald. And then in 2010, Chief appointed myself, and as I'm stepping out of my position, April 1, Chief Gramala will be the new liaison, and the Chief's committed to keeping it at staff level. It helps really to get the word out there. It helps us at forums and so on and so forth, and actually it helps us just represent the department better in our community. So that's the history on the parade. We had seen a decline in employees actually going and joining in the parade in uniform in the last couple of years. So last year in 2014, Chief Beck put on the LAN an announcement in really trying to encourage more of our officers to participate. Several officers that I personally know and several of us has reached out to, they weren't interested in walking in the parade. But it's still, we had a few people last year. It was a smaller than the normal number. I know, Commissioner, you and I have been in the parade for several years. So that's the history on the parade.
I believe I was joined last year.
Yes. Commissioner Madison was there also.
Commissioner Madison
yes.
as well.
So that's the history on the parade, and it's still, we encourage every year, we will be putting it on the land and encouraging our individual officers who'd like to participate, but because it is out of the jurisdiction, that's why we've always done it on an off-duty basis, but have allowed and approved uniforms. We also encourage commanding officers to allow their officers who might be interested in doing it to giving them the day off so they can join in.
Do you want to talk about the feasibility of a commission-sponsored reception?
I do, but I have a question about this first.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So then they have the discretion of giving the officer a day off so that the officer could walk in the parade. I know it's a sheriff's department jurisdiction, but that means that it doesn't get logged as a vacation day. Is that what that means? The discretion to give the day off?
They can get it as a regular day off. They can get if they have accumulated time, they can get what we call TO time.
But it comes out of their bank.
It comes out of their bank.
I
Yes.
see. Okay.
And are there other out-of-jurisdiction events? I'm thinking of Baker to Vegas as one, or whatever it is, as one example, but there may be others, where there's significant department participation. And is it accurate then to say that in all of those out-of-jurisdiction events, it's the same policy being applied?
Baker to Vegas is, Chief, are you going to say something? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Baker to Vegas is off-duty.
Right.
And the majority of them, I'd have to look at all of the ones. I would hate to say all of them are, and then there may be one or two that aren't, but the majority of the ones that are out of the jurisdiction.
I guess I'd appreciate that, because I appreciate that this event is in West Hollywood. Of course, West Hollywood is surrounded completely by the city of Los Angeles and the city of Beverly Hills. And there's a great working relationship between the West Hollywood Sheriff and the LAPD in the Hollywood area. And so if, in fact, the reason that officers are not in uniform on duty in the parade is because it's out of jurisdiction, I would like to know that that's a consistent policy being applied. And if it's not, I'd like to understand what the exceptions are and whether this would fit with one of those exceptions.
Okay. So the context for this is not to criticize the department in any way, but to try to figure out how we can encourage more representatives from LAPD to attend and walk in the Pride Parade because of all the reasons that one might suppose. And since I've been on the commission, I've ridden in the Pride Parade, but when I was at NBC Universal, I routinely rode in the parade, especially in the role of representing diversity. So to Steve's question about whether, can we talk about hosting a reception, Commissioner Saltzman and I talked about the possibility of, in the same way that there are other employee resource groups or other diverse people who have these celebratory events, if we might not host something for members of the department, both uniformed and non-uniformed, to have them know that we encourage them, that we, the commission, also encourage them to participate in that. So that's really where that's from. So our desire is to try to, I think I'm supposed to say at our expense.
I think you are too.
I think I'm supposed to say that.
The department certainly support the commission and assist in helping to facilitate that if the commission is going to put on a...
Would the department
Yes, the department will assist, and we'll see what our funding is, and the department may even pay for it.
No, I don't want...
Well, no, I don't want to get in the way of Steve's generosity, but...
I wondered if you would be... Yeah, okay. My question was the other way. I think that would be a commission. If we're having a reception, we pay for our reception. We don't ask you to pay for ours, and you don't...
But we would certainly help in the invites. And
it seems to me, and I'm not trying to prejudge this, and I welcome the department's participation. I welcome the chief's offer to pay for it if the funds are there. I would like, as much as possible, and I think this was Commissioner Madison's idea in the first place, that this event eventually become somewhat similar to the event around Martin Luther King Day, event around Cesar Chavez Day, and there may be others. And I'm not, as far as I know, the commission does not pay for those. I certainly don't think I do personally, and I don't have a lot of money, but to pay for something like that. But what I'm trying to do is help the department encourage the employees who are LGBT to participate. And it seems to me that's a fully appropriate thing for the department to do. I think having the leadership come from the commission and the chief is also appropriate. But to me, that's separate from a question of funding.
You're talking about like a breakfast before or something like
Right,
that?
actually, we're talking about, I think, two different things. One is something which, sponsored by the commission and the chief, which brings together the department employees. And the other is essentially an open event, probably a reception, or one option, probably the easiest would be a reception before the chief's forum, where there's more interaction than there is at the forum because of the formal nature of the forum. But I'm not a party planner. I'm not trying to structure that. I just think the idea is to recreate for the LGBT community and the department, given the tremendous progress that's been made, the similar kind of social interaction and mutual support that goes on around the Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez, and perhaps other days. That's my idea.
Okay. That makes it clearer for me.
And the sensitivity around it is that, of course, those of us who are black, then we show up to or get invited to the MLK event. Those of us who are Latino, Cesar Chavez. But the issues surrounding LGBTQ and one's willingness to be out is a highly sensitive issue. And so the invitation really has to go to everyone, not just because we don't know, frankly, everybody, and we don't want to presume unless someone has said, you know.
Well, and just as there are non-black department employees who participate in the MLK, there are clearly going to be non-LGBT department employees who may want to participate in the Pride Parade, and we're just trying to encourage that.
Yes.
Okay, good. It helps, for one, it helps me understand
our motives.
Exactly. Yeah, good.
I guess I just have a question for Mr. Tefank,
That's the question.
Which is, are we clear at this point about what we're trying to do, and is there something more we need to do, or we
No, I think
work for the department at this point?
I think at this point in time, I get the direction of the commission, and I'll work with the department to make the event occur. We'll start with a reception at the next Chiefs quarterly LGBTQ meeting, and then we'll evolve from that to the bigger event as you talked about. But we'll certainly work with the department to get that done.
Thank you.
Leave that to me and my staff, and we'll work with the department and get it done.
Great. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, we're now on item 8C, Executive Director's Report dated March 3rd, 2015, relative to residential valet parking, Council File number 14-0020.
The reason that I asked it to be called out is it looks like the area of it that I'm interested in is option one, and it looked like in order for us to move this forward that a recommended action would be to pick one of those options. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mr. President, members of the Commission, if I may, the report before you with my recommendation is to recommend option one be the option that goes forward to the Transportation Committee. The Transportation Committee, as a bit of background of this, had this item on their agenda in December of 2014 at the request of community members. And the impact basically is from events occurring in the Holmby Hills area north of Sunset, with the restriction that the fire department had placed in the narrow streets of no parking. Events that were taking place at private residences were impacting the area south of Sunset by people parking their vehicles there and then either being shuttled up to the location of the party, or taking their vehicle to the location of the party and then the vehicle being driven down, parked by a valet, and then they're shuttled back north to the party. The impact occurred because when the valet ordinance was approved by the City Council and became operational in early 2014, there was intentionally a carve-out in the ordinance for non-reoccurring events at a residential location. And the council's decision relative to this was, let's say an individual was having a graduation party at their home and they wanted to offer valet services. They did not feel it was important and really regulatory enough to require a formal valet permit to be obtained by the residential property owner through a valet company. So that's why the carve-out occurred. Well, when you have this circumstance occurred unique to this area, you have the impact in the neighborhood and their quality of life occurring. So option one addresses an issue that is specific to a location without impacting 450 miles of the city and requiring the same throughout the entire city when you don't have a community impact. So with option one, what we would recommend is the council amend the ordinance to give the authority to the Board of Police Commissioners under the authorities granted through the valet ordinance to create rules and regulations that would allow us to implement the requirements that are included in option two on a case-by-case basis. So as an example, the area that we're dealing with now in the Homely Hills area, we would require the resident to obtain a valet permit through their valet company, designate a parking location for the vehicles, and then the vehicles would not park in that residential area. If there was a violation, the violator is the valet company. And all valet companies are required to be permitted. We believe this is a reasonable solution to an impact, certainly that's impacting the quality of life in the community that is impacted by this. But again, in this case, it's typically that response, one size doesn't fit all. And it is a unique situation, and if we have this replicated in other areas of the city, we can take and implement this same type of manner. The other nice thing about this is, since it is a board rule, we can put it on the agenda of the commission, let's say today, and when you adopt it, it becomes effective immediately. As most of you know, through the bureaucratic process of city government, creating an ordinance change takes a significant amount of time. And this is a much quicker way to respond to community concerns, be proactive, answer community issues, and at the same time have a reasonable way of going about that. The enforcement arm for this is Commission Investigation Division, your regulatory arm that does regulate all police permits. So with that, my recommendation to the commission would be to adopt the report with recommendation number one, and then the report will be forwarded to Transportation Committee, where it will be heard again, and I'm sure they will refer it to the Public Safety Committee, and then hopefully to full council where we can get the ordinance changed.
Any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
I think there may be a public comment card, sir.
Yes, we do have one public comment card. We have Dennis Rosenblatt.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen and ladies. Thank you. My name is Dennis Rosenblatt. I'm here representing the Holmby Westwood Property Association. It's 1,100 homes that border Sunset Boulevard. Anyway, we appreciate all the hard work that Executive Director Tefenk and the two detectives who worked on this, Detective Jones and Detective Merle, for their help in investigating and proposing solutions to remedy this valet issue. As the executive director mentioned, there was a carve-out that was written into the valet ordinance of 2013. That ordinance also acknowledged that while valet parking may provide some benefit, it should not interfere with the rights of others using the streets and public rights of way and create a public nuisance. Unfortunately, it has created a public nuisance in our area. For example, recently, we hosted over 120 cars that were brought into our neighborhood to support a party that was in another part of the city. So it's the frequency and the number of these that have just created this a really poor living condition for these homes that are affected. We endorse the findings of the executive director, and we also believe that there's very good value in using option one, which will leave it specific so that it doesn't become a citywide issue, and also the recommendations in option two for defining just how this would be implemented. And there was just one other thing I wanted to mention, which was that it's our understanding that if violation was considered an ACE violation, then the fine structure would be incremental so that it couldn't become just a cost of doing business for the valet companies.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anyway, thank you for your time and your support.
Just to respond to Mr. Rosenblatt's comment about the ACE program. ACE is the Administrative Citation Program, where it is non-criminal in nature. There is an escalation of fines to a violator. It moves things along much quicker and not through the criminal justice system.
Okay. So if there's no further comment, one of the commissioners, will you make a motion? Or Mr. Tefank, do you want to restate the motion so we can get it perfect?
The motion we issue to approve the Executive Director's report and transmit to the Transportation Committee.
With option A?
Yes, sir. Well, option 1.
With option 1. Okay.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on item 8I, Department's Report dated March 6, 2015, relative to the Confidential Financial Disclosure Report, IAID number 14-072.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Commission. Good morning. Jeffrey Phillips, Internal Audits Inspections Division, and with me I have Randy Katami, also a Police Performance Auditor with IAID, and he serves as the Financial Disclosure Coordinator. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it to him so he could go ahead and brief the Confidential Financial Disclosure Report.
Good morning.
Morning.
Those of you who don't know me, I'm a Police Performance Auditor with Internal Audits Inspections Division. I've been currently assigned to the Financial Disclosure program. I've been doing this for the last 4.5 years since the inception of the program. And if you have any questions in regards to the report, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
I don't have any questions, just have a comment, in part for the benefit of my fellow commissioners, although they may be fully up to speed on it. Just a little bit of background on this issue. The financial disclosure piece comes from the consent decree. There was quite a bit of consternation expressed by some in the department before it was implemented about difficulties that the department would face in implementing it and in staffing the various units that it affected. And as far as I can tell, those things have not come to be. And I'm just pleased to see the result of this audit, and if I'm reading it right, it's 100%, and it's the 4th time it's been 100%. And so unless I've stated something incorrectly, Chief, you can correct me. I simply wanted to commend the department.
You know, I appreciate Commissioner Salzman's comments. You know, the 731 department employees that are subject to financial disclosure have all complied, and a lot of that is due to Randy's diligence. You know, Randy not only is the inspection arm of this, but he's also been the individual that has worked with the gang and narcotics units, that has explained the program, that has been personally responsible for its security, because, you know, that was the original concern when I first became chief, that this would lead to, you know, mass disclosures of private financial information regarding police officers, and none of that has occurred, and that is largely due to Randy's diligence. So, thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on item number 9, public comment. We have 32 comment cards. The first 4 speakers, Suzanne Shaw, Prentice Jenkins, Patricia Mendoza, and General Dogan. Prentice Jenkins, Patricia Mendoza, General Dogan, Joseph Thomas.
Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. I'd like to speak on the discipline of cops and the post-traumatic stress that cops go through. It changes their personality. We don't understand why these shootings happen. Maybe it is post-traumatic stress. We think it's racism, but maybe it's post-traumatic stress.
Sir, can you speak in the microphone? It's hard for me to...
Okay. I write a newsletter called City Life Newsletter. And in this newsletter, I go through all of the problems that cops go through with post-traumatic stress disorder. Most of you cops in here have it, but they know how to deal with it. It's those that don't know how to deal with it that start shooting. It's those that don't know how to deal with it who when their personality changes, they start stalking people. I've been stalked by gay cops. And you know you have gay cops in the police department. I have no problem with gay men. It seems to me that gay men, gay cops, and gay firemen have a problem with me. I'm what's known as parolee handsome. I'm a straight man. That doesn't matter because they will stalk you. It's called gang stalking. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's been happening. David Lawson wrote a book on it, and it's happened. It's been happening for years. It's been happening for me for 2 years. So I started writing about it. Helicopters coming over your building, hitting you with that vortex, and you know what that can do to a building. That rotor can vibrate an entire 8-story building. It'll vibrate it, and they'll do that 15, 20 times. I have videotapes of gay firemen and gay cops coming by, hitting their sirens, and as soon as they pass me, they turn them off. I have videotapes of cops taking out the ladder truck. It's a ladder. Every time that truck comes out, it's $3,500. They build the city.
Thank you, sir. Next.
I want to give this to the, thank you.
Patricia Mendoza. No.
I want to give this to the commission. And I want to file this complaint. Can I file that here?
Ernie.
Oh, this police department. Oh, I have one more thing to give them too. I'll give you the other one.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. With all due respect, this is the first time that I'm here. I'm going to try to be strong and not cry. I would like to share that I was born and raised in downtown. I guess I'm 51, 52, worked in the law office for 25 years, been dealing with the police department, the Rampart Police Department, correcting police reports. I also been a victim recently for many, many different matters. I've been bullied and harassed by a lot of police officers. I have enough documents and pictures to prove. I've been here for the past 2 years, and I've asked if I can meet with Charlie Beck, or is there some kind of meeting that I can attend? They said no, that everything I had to do by writing. They have lied. I wanted to share with you, with all of you, especially you, Mr. Charlie Beck, I have been a witness how people have been beaten up in downtown LA at the Garment District in the day and the night. I've been a witness how they kidnapped a kid on a weekend at the Garment District. You have the Central Police Department, you have the Newton doing investigation. I've been until 2 o'clock in the morning. I've seen the abuse, the lies that they give to the parents. There's a lot of police officers are bullies, instigators. They have a lot of anger, a lot of hate. There's a lot of racism in the Rampart Police Station regarding the supervisors and watch commanders. And I don't know why they hate me. I'm trying to, why do they hate me? The last incident that I had, the police officers came to my home. But I guess God sent me a group of angels because it was a group of white people. They wanted to be witnesses of what was going on with me. And I told them I did not need them. I don't know where they came from, and I didn't get their names. But what I do want to share, Mr. Charlie Beck, you are the chief, and there is a reason why you have this position. I know that you know every little thing what goes on in our communities. You need to start cleaning. You need to start firing people and removing people.
Next. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to say one more thing.
You.
Sorry. There's a lot of good officers out there. Very good officers.
General Dogan.
General Dogon, Skid Row resident and organizer with LA Can. In regards to March 1st LAPD lynching of our brother Africa on Skid Row, members of LA Can Civil Rights Committee, which is a group of Skid Row residents that meet once a week to talk about policing and public health issues in Skid Row, we created a list of 5 demands, right, in which one of those demands is we demand that there be an independent prosecutor and a DOJ investigation. Skid Row residents, we have absolutely no faith in Chief Beck or in you commissioners that you could do an investigation without any bias. And several of those reasons is because, for one, you pushed away any potential witnesses that was there, at the incident. You pushed them down the streets. So you only got a one-side story anyway, And then 2, Chief Beck refuses to release the body camera footage that the cops was wearing. And then another thing is that we sat up here and we listened last police commission to you sobering up. You're supposed to be one of the commissioners that represent us. We heard you up here talking about the police. You can't grab the police gun and all this kind of stuff. You already made statements exonerating the cops, and so did Chief Beck. And the mayor has already made statements exonerating. And then you had a lady that come up here that spoke from the Police Protective League that said the same thing y'all said, right? And so, I mean, how are we supposed to get a partial and fair investigation, right? Sobernov, I think he said it the best when he said the only reason why come he didn't vote, he was the only one that didn't vote to re-elect Chief Beck. And the reason why come he said that, because there is no transparency. He said he's still waiting on paperwork from 2.5 years ago, on investigations, you know what I'm saying, that he have yet to receive. So we feel the same way. We ain't going to be waiting 2.5 years for this investigation to come back, and when it come back, it's bogus anyway, because it's starting off bogus.
Next.
My name is Joseph Thomas, and I'm a member of the LA Civil Rights Committee and the Stop LAPD from Spines. Our current number 2 is to end the Safer Cities Initiative of Skid Row and remove all extra officers and resources of Skid Row. Now we know you give 53% of the city budget to policing, but if we don't get people off the street and you don't put housing out there, then we're going to have killings anyway. Now, you come up here with the same bogus thing about, oh, they're reaching for my gun. Oh, my license support will get another job. Check this out. If you were spending money and you saying, oh, I'm spending this on the police so it'll be safer, why don't the officers have the 310 holsters? That means if anybody tried to get a gun out the holster would lock and you can't put it up. What the hell are you spending this damn money for?
Welcome, sir.
I'm out of turn, but this is the third demand.
Are you out? You're out of turn?
Yes. What is your name,
Are
sir?
you the intern?
Am I on the list?
Go ahead. And let me call the 4 next speakers also. Penn Kale, Wesley Walker, here you are. Michael Novick, and Teru Williams.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. My name is Wesley Walker, and I'm a member of the Los Angeles Community Action Network on the Civil Rights Committee. And our third demand is demand that the SMART team that stationed at Central Division be the first responder to any emergency call for a mentally health individual. And the calls on Skid Row as opposed to the SCI police task force or the SWAT team. We need to have a SMART team on call for all those mentally ill calls, okay? Because one example, Brother O'Connor, which was 7 months ago, he was shot down off of a sign. If the SMART team would have been there, we wouldn't be speaking about this today. You got to get your priorities straight here. Are you going to send a killer team to get a mentally ill person down off of a sign who's unarmed? Or are you going to do it the other way around like you've been doing? It don't make sense. That's not good leadership for Chief Beck. We got to get our priorities straight. Black Lives Matter.
That's right. That's right.
Okay?
Thank you, sir. Is it okay for the people behind you to let you,
Yes, I'm Suzette Shaw. I do apologize for the misunderstanding. Okay. There's a lack of communication. I do apologize. Again, I am Suzette Shaw, and I am a Skid Row resident. I am also a member of Los Angeles Community Action Network, as well as Downtown Women's Action Coalition. I really came united with these fronts because of I was compelled to deal with the needs of the community as a woman living in Skid Row, continually have felt oppressed by different issues going on in the community. And how I, as a woman, also even came to Skid Row. But with that said, I just want to also talk about how we as a community come together to work with you all. And there seems to be some lack of understanding that we do not want to work with you all. Just please understand respectfully that just because we ask to hold you accountable does not mean that we do not want to work with you. We want to work with you, but we are going to hold you accountable. And as the lady spoke earlier, you are represented to represent the people. You have been elected and appointed to represent the people. So. Also, I hope that you all understand that, it's very important when people point out the PTSD aspect, not only that exists within our community, but also that exists within your ranks, because so many of law enforcement come with a background, a military background. It seems almost nowadays you can almost only get a job. I come from a military town. You can almost get a job if you come with a military background. So many people coming into law enforcement these days are coming with already that military background. And also with their already heightened issues that they're dealing with. So we ask that you come together and work with us within the community regarding our needs, work with our leaders, work with our community members, and we demand that you come to the table with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Michelle. Welcome, sir.
Hi, my name is Michael Novick. I'm with Anti-Racist Action. I moderate a group called Stop Police Abuse Now on Yahoo Groups. I've lived in Los Angeles for since 1982, and over that 33-year period, LAPD on the average has killed about a dozen people every year, a person a month. They shoot somebody every week, 50 people a year. It's been going up, if anything, over that period of time. And the police commission and the city council treat it as a cost of doing business to pay off people with cash settlements for those loss of lives and shootings. I believe that I was out of town last week, but I think the LAPD killed 2 other people besides Brother Africa. They chased a car theft suspect into Burbank and shot and killed him, and a woman who was accused of stabbing another woman with a knife. And I think that the police commission has the obligation to realize that you're presiding over a system that is designed to brutalize and intimidate the population. I don't know how many vehicle impounds it takes by the LAPD to pay for the coverage you have here today of people standing around trying to intimidate public speakers, but I find it offensive. I think that the solutions that are being put forward are part of the problem. The body cameras are designed not to watch what the police do, but to surveil the community. It's another weapon in their arsenal of political espionage and surveillance. And the so-called community policing is described in the journals of law enforcement as the domestic equivalent of psychological operations in the military. Community policing is part of the militarization of police. It's not a solution to it, and you have the obligation to transform this city. The police are here to enforce exploitation and gentrification, the gentrification of Hollywood, of Echo Park, the privatization of public housing in South LA, and it has to stop.
Thank you. Next. Morning.
Good morning, y'all, commissioners.
Speak in the mic for me, huh?
Hello, my name is Taru Williams. I was shot by the LAPD, and I would like to get more information, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Bustamante. Can you please get this to him? You said that I was only smacked in the back of my head and stepped in the back of my neck. Obviously, I was shot, and it wasn't a proper investigation of what happened to me in that day on 2006. Of course, it was bogus because obviously it was a police cover-up, just like my friend Damon D. Jackson, who was killed downtown right here on August 3rd. I would like more information on this guy as well because I know you guys are very secretive, Mr. Charlie Beck. Please. I want to know what happened to my friend. Please get these killer cops. I knew you guys don't indict cops in L.A. for some reason, and I don't want you guys to end up like what happened in Ferguson. You know there was a judge that had to resign because of what was going on in that town, and I'm pretty sure that's going on in this town because it happened there. It can happen all across this country, and it has to stop. You guys are the oversight. You're supposed to see these guys, these police officers that's protecting us, the community. If these guys are not doing their job, as one of my fellow colleagues said, they're not doing their job, they need to step down. If you guys don't want to do your job, please don't get paid. Please just go get you another job. My friend that got killed, I almost got killed. I'm a survivor. We got too many people are getting killed in this country. Please, we are LA. I am from LA. I'm born and raised here. I've been here all my life. And I love this state. I love this city. Please do something about this. We just can't sit around. Every 28 hours, somebody is being killed that is black or a minority or is poor. And we have a mental health problem in this country. We need to solve that issue. And we have a homeless problem. We also need the issue. We need to resolve these issues. Please, can you give this to him? Because I need to know what happened. Please investigate what happened to me. I got shot in my back. I did not just get slapped in the back of my neck.
Welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is George, a.k.a. Pancake, International Flavor. I'd like to address all beautiful people, hermoso gente, in every language, tribe, and tongue. It's about people, first of all. I have a few points that I would like to highlight to the commission, to Chief Beck, all of you commissioners. I am an ordained minister of the Church of God in Christ. I'm a native. I had an encounter with one of former LAPD Rampart Division, Rafael Perez. Well, that's history. But moving it forward, there was some a member of LA Can Civil Rights Committee, one of them asked 10,000 permanent supportive housing to be built in LA, with a significant percent being built downtown. A few points on the day of the shooting of gentleman Africa. I believe it could have been handled differently. The day of the shooting, it was my understanding that there were some kids around. It was first Sunday. Some of these parents that are recovering bring their kids to services on Sunday in the area. SMART team not deployed. Number of people on Skid Row, we should be aware of facing mental challenges. And you can't approach them like, other people or members of the population. And it's my take also that certain officers need to be reevaluated, disciplined, and prosecuted. And I want to give a shout out to some current and former LAPD members who I played ball with, who I grew up with, went to school with: Daryl Maxwell, Paul Lawson, Willie White, and Myrna Lewis. And don't let Daryl Maxwell ever forget that I blocked a shot in a scrimmage many, many years ago.
Thank you, sir.
Going up for a pump fake, I was right there. All power to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. The next four speakers: Davon Williams, Ariana Alcaraz, Omar Pai, and Jerry Dietrich.
Hello, my name is Davon Williams. I'm a youth organizer with the Youth Justice Coalition, also supporter of many other organizations that are here with me. I'm here to demand that you guys take accountability to all the people that you are killing. As mentioned earlier, there have been over 600 people killed by the LAPD in the past couple years, including my cousin. And I also would like you guys to send out reports that are detailed of who they are, what race were they, what age were they, what neighborhood were they, where they live, what part of LA do they live in, or wherever. But more detailed reports so people can see what is going on. Please take responsibility of what you were doing. It is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Ariana. I'm part of the Los Angeles Community Action Network and the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. As you know, I'm a community member of Skid Row, and I'm here to demand, as part of the Civil Rights Committee, that SCI needs to come to an end. There's just way too many cops out on the streets. Just days after what happened to Africa, we were out on the the streets in Wesley brought to our attention. We walked out, and there was a man on the ground with more officers than were on Africa. There was about at least 6 officers on top of him, and it was in broad daylight, and that's how many officers were out there for that one stop. They had injured him. He was on the ground, and when the fire department came and tried to pick him up, the police officer tried to pick him up, and he screamed out. He was injured, obviously. He had multiple people on top of him. And the fire department responded to him and said, come on, make this easier for yourself. And it's like, come on, this guy just got pounced on by officers, and this is the kind of treatment that our residents are receiving. There's just way too many police officers out on the streets, and it doesn't make me feel safer. It doesn't make anybody feel safer. That money that is saved could be going to non-LAPD mental health workers that need to be out on the streets, not police officers. It needs to go to more extremely low-income, affordable housing. We demand 10,000 units be built throughout the city, but majority of them need to stay in Skid Row, where most people can stay in their community. So, Braf, you made a comment last week about how Skid Row is a community of domestic violence, drug addiction, mental illness. That happens in all communities. I mean, it happens everywhere, not just Skid Row. The only difference is the people in your community have access to the resources that help them, and here in Skid Row, we have very, very little resources for them. And so as my time is going to run out, but you call yourselves community policing officers.
Thank you. Next. Morning, sir.
Morning. I'm not only a resident of Los Angeles, but I'm also a very concerned individual that is part of a civil rights movement called the LA CAN, Black Lives Matters, and is basically why I'm here, to show concern. One thing that all of us are pretty much vocal about is the SCI. To me, the SCI policy has really decimated the community of downtown, because for one thing, their concern is profit and money making, while at the same time people of Skid Row and many working class, low income communities are basically suffering because of lack of resource. But instead, you bring in more police forces. You bring in helicopters over our ceilings and stuff, and it's pretty unacceptable. Many things that could be done. For one, in SCI, as one demand. The other is to bring a huge amount of mental health and healthcare centers into Skid Row, and please also think this LAPD isn't the solution to end all problems. I believe that a team called SMART will be an excellent team to really to have in our communities, to not assault or abuse homeless residents, but to basically set a path to understanding and help one another, rather than assaulting and shooting someone, like, for example, Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Of the launching of body camera use by the LAPD. We reject the proposed use of drones by LAPD. We demand full public hearings on the militarization of LAPD. We demand the Commission to immediately send a detailed report to the Department of Justice and U.S. District Court Judge Gary Fees, informing them of violations of conditions and intent of the federal consent decree. It's interesting to me that the federal consent decree came and everybody, you had to deal with all these things, and then it got lifted because, we're doing so well now, and you're still not doing well. So I want you to send a report to them to explain what you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you. The next 4 speakers, Hamid Khan, Joseph Thomas, Jamie Garcia, and Esteban Gil.
Good morning. My name is Hamid Khan with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. People tell us, why do we come here? Because they say that it's just not worth their time because nothing will change. People of Los Angeles are increasingly becoming frustrated, angry, and disillusioned by the facade of this civilian oversight board that we call the Police Commission. And the people are right. But the reason why we keep on coming is that we want to expose this show and tell. We want to expose this fallacy of the civilian oversight, because this clearly, and a lot of time, we work with students, and there's some students here from Cal State LA as well, to show that how power works in this way, where they recruit some of these people, they put them up front. But they don't stop there, but they also go and recruit some of the other political opportunists within the community who they partner with. But as we move forward, in the long run, this will change. I mean, things always change, whether you are here or not. But I think what will go down in history will be your names. Robert Saltzman, Paula Madison, Steve Soboroff, Kathleen Kim, and I'm sorry, whatever your name is. Sandra Figueroa, yes. As people who really just didn't live up to the obligation, who absolutely sat there as law professors, as an ED of a nonprofit organization, as a rich land developer, and as a media executive, where you just completely keep on dismissing anything you say. I mean, Mr. Bustamante and Chief Beck are completely discredited as far as the community is concerned, but you are a body that people at least think that can be serious about it with the obligation and as custodians of public trust. But you continue to fail over and over again. So we not only hold the city responsible, we hold you directly responsible for what happened on March 1st. That murder could have been avoided because people have been coming and screaming at you that pay attention, but you completely keep on dismissing people's concern. But that will change. I'm letting you know now.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Jamie Garcia. I'm with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. So the Los Angeles Board of Police Commission received a letter on February 24th from the coalition demanding the commissioners to respond to concerns raised by the community. In response to a detailed, fact-filled 8-page letter written by the coalition, the commission responded in a 1.5-page unsubstantiated letter, completely ignoring and dismissing every one of our concerns. Regarding the issue of racial profiling, the 2015 Inspector General audit of suspicious activity reporting program statistically demonstrated clear occurrences of racial profiling. We're in the middle of speaking to PhD students at UCLA that are basically telling us that the secrecy that goes on in regards to suspicious activity reporting is the reason why the data is so insufficient. So we're still following up with that, despite the fact that you choose not to. On the issue of militarization of LAPD through the usage of drones, the commission stated, "We will receive public comment on this issue." Nothing further was stated in this letter. You haven't even come public about the fact that you lied about doing community outreach. On the issue of fictitious body camera hearings, where the community clearly rejected any use of these cameras, the commission again stated in their letter that they received public comment. No further details were released. Lastly, and most importantly, Chief Beck knew that in-car camera videos were intentionally sabotaged, a clear and intentional violation of the consent decree, yet he never spoke up until LA Times broke the story. The commission stated that they still maintain trust in Charlie Beck, ability to lead the LAPD. The content of the letter from a civilian oversight body that comprises, again, 2 law professors, an executive director of a nonprofit, a media executive, a real estate developer. I mean, you should be absolutely ashamed that this kind of letter came out in your name. I mean, I'm an academic, and I know that if a community went as far as releasing a 8-page letter, you should at least respond in that same manner. So really, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Next.
Okay, this is the second call for Joseph Thomas and Esteban Gil. Okay, the next 4 speakers will be coming from the overflow room: Paul Jung, Adam Rice, Marilyn Fuss, and Jose Luis Fuentes.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Marilyn Fuss, and I'm a member of the National Action Coalition.
Please speak into the microphone. Will you speak into the microphone for us?
National Action Network and Martin Luther King Coalition for Jobs, Justice, and Peace. And in the past year, I personally have had to deal with 2 deaths involving police, one of them a suicide in San Pedro. The Quality of care from the police that I got was sterling, amazing, beyond the extra mile. I'll always be grateful for it. My question is, though, where's that caliber of policeman or policewoman on the street? Why is killing underage kids, our kids, become an epidemic? Thank you.
Good question.
Thank you. Next, welcome.
Hello, good morning. Before I begin, I would like to respectfully ask for your complete and full attention, okay? I'm speaking to you as both a student and a citizen. I would like to speak on behalf of the public safety. There's always a loss. Hold on, guys. I had to write this all, and it's everywhere. There's always a loss because of LAPD. LAPD should attend to us rather than continue to spread fear. This is no way of living life in this community. The LAPD system is very corrupt. It is aggravating to constantly hear innocent people being shot. It's always a different story with the same outcome. It is as if police themselves cannot handle having guns because, ironically, they feel threatened by us, the unarmed citizens. Moving forward would be less deaths in the hands of the LAPD. Please do as you promote. Remember, respect for people, integrity in all we do and say, and quality through continuous improvement. Well, where is it? Do not promote what you cannot do. I plead that this changes, and I thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hello. So, I've not been in this room before. However, reading the walls, I am reading quotes from which I suppose derive from the mission statement of the LAPD. Service to our communities. Where is the service when you're killing our citizens? Respect for the people. Where is the respect when you're ripping microphones out of people's hands? These people behind these uniforms do not reflect the words on these walls. I stand before you because to not say anything would be a disservice. It is my moral duty, our moral duty, to have the concern for the communities that we live in. Why is it that we the people are more concerned with the community than the people who are getting paid seem to be? These modern-day lynchings must stop. Thank you.
Excuse me, speakers, can you please state your name before you speak? Thank you.
My name is Adam Rice, and I'm a member of the Los Angeles Community Action Network. For the last 3 years, I've worked on Skid Row. For a year and a half of that, I lived on Skid Row, on the streets. See, I don't even know how to describe it to you. If you haven't been there in the morning when somebody's shaking your tent at 6 a.m., when you've stayed up all night trying to make sure that your space is safe and that everything is cool, it's a nerve-shattering experience. But the most nerve-shattering experience is having to sleep in a tent in the first place. Right. We have a problem in this city. It's not just an LAPD problem. LAPD is a physical extension that's closest to us as the people. It is a problem of political will in this city. We spend $118 million a year on Safer Cities initiative between the policing, the arrests, the jail. Safer Cities has been in place for 10 years. That is $1 billion that could have been used to clear out Skid Row, not into a jail cell, but into housing. Because that's what Skid Row is, by the way. 3,000 people on the streets who have been pushed down and rejected by this city, but also 13,000 people in affordable housing. And that is really why the city is coming at Skid Row. People on the streets don't really pose a problem to you, do they? It's the redevelopment of downtown. It's a new vision for downtown that has attacked Skid Row. It is those people in those 13,000 units of affordable housing and the people on the streets, the victims of this system, suffer daily under the abuses of a police force who has orders to suppress us.
Thank you.
From up high.
Good morning. I'm Jose Luis Fuentes,
Executive Director of the National Lawyers Guild. You know, we believe that human rights are more sacred than property rights, and I'm here to blow the whistle on you folks to make you realize that that is sacred truth. If we look at the statistics of LA County for the last 15 years, this city has failed to observe human rights. They believe that property rights are more sacred. From last year alone, 2014, 16 people were killed by the Los Angeles Police Department in the city of Los Angeles. 38 people were killed in the county by the police. Over the last 15 years, 252 people have been killed by the Los Angeles Police Department, 606 people in the county of Los Angeles. If we do the math, 15 divided by 252, that's 16.8 people killed every year for the last 15 years by the Los Angeles Police Department. What does that mean? 16 people? I can predict what's going to happen this year. 16 more people will be killed by the Los Angeles Police Department this year. Now, what does that mean for the city? Well, it means that they're going to have to be facing people like myself and my fellow attorneys from the National Lawyers Guild who have made a living for the last 15 years, 30 years, suing the Los Angeles Police Department, suing the Sheriff's Department for violating human rights, for failing to train, supervise, and discipline your officers. And Chief Beck, your predecessor, Mr. Gates, a lot of decisions on him failing to supervise, failing to discipline, failing to train police officers, a lot of decisions on it. We know the roadmap, and we'll hit your pockets if you don't start taking action. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Paul Jung. I'm a staff attorney at the Asian Americans Advancing Justice LA, formerly known as Asian Pacific American Legal Center, APALC. I just want to read a really quick statement in response to shooting death of Brother Africa on March the 1st. Asian Americans Advancing Justice LA is deeply saddened and outraged by shooting death of an unarmed homeless man from Skid Row known as Brother Africa, Mr. Kuneng, at the hands of the LAPD. This is reportedly the third police-involved killing in Skid Row since 2006 launch of the Safer Cities Initiative in Skid Row, which has one of the highest rates of police use of force in the city. Advancing Justice LA calls for a thorough, transparent, and timely investigation in the interest of justice. We also stand in solidarity with those who are calling on the mayor, the Office of the Inspector General, the City of Los Angeles Police Commission to assert greater leadership in holding the LAPD accountable for the death of the Brother Africa. As a civil rights and social justice organization, we affirm that all Black lives matter. The death of a Black person every 20 hours at the hands of law enforcement officers in this nation is unacceptable, unexcusable, and it has reached a point of crisis. It's imperative that this avoidable tragedy leads us to re-examine the role of policing in our society, including in the over-policed area of Skid Row, and to implement the necessary changes in policing policies and practices to affirm the dignity of Black lives and of those who are homeless with mental illness. Thank you very much.
And the next four speakers, also from the Overflow, General Jeff, Michael Hunt, Luis Mbella, and Kai Utsumi.
Sir, go ahead. The gentleman that's standing up, go ahead.
Mr. Utsumi, you can.
Would you like to go ahead?
Yes. I agree with everything the preceding speaker said. Why this commission is satisfied that the SMART team operating out of Skid Row Central Division is never called to mediate This results in a lot of unnecessary death. Why? You have a SMART team. You don't use it. Instead, the police prefers brute force and killing over and over and over. The all too often police resolution of brute force on black and brown, actually murder, never proceeds into a criminal court system or incarceration. LAPD officers use brute force with impunity against black and brown human beings, civil and human rights. This happens over and over and over throughout the nation and in LA and the Sheriff's Department. We need a truly independent oversight investigation. Independent. Why this commission doesn't call for it? We also need another federal consent decree. They lifted the other one too early. The Rampart scandal is part of LAPD. It's part of LAPD history. You cannot hide it.
Thank you. The Honorable Ninth Circuit winner, Michael Hunt. You're not professional enough to be down here, sir. You need training. Now, let me address the committee. Number one, you guys need the federal consent decree to come back. You guys have abused the laws of the people. You guys need that. I'm demanding that it comes back, the Warren Commission and the federal consent decree. Now, I have another problem with Venice Beach. They issued me these seller's permits at the state board, and they keep on issuing me tickets for displaying my product. If you can please take this to all the commissioners right here, sir. Can I have you right over here? Give this to one of each of the commissioners and find out. With a seller's permit, they keep on writing me tickets. You guys have now been sued twice, about $15 million in losses for the city of Los Angeles. You guys towed my vehicle, which was a hybrid, which wasn't supposed to be towed, and you guys towed it on the hind wheels. That's another lawsuit. But here's one that we're really going to address right now. Chief Beck, I'm suing you directly for capriciously abusing my rights down at Venice Beach. This one is directly towards you. The paperwork will be probably served in by the 20th. We're 2 out of 3 here on Venice Beach. Your officers continuously violate my rights, and they keep on doing it knowingly and willingly. This is the 3rd time or 4th time this has happened. So I'm suing you personally and charging you with writing me tickets with displaying my products with a seller's permit. Shame on you, Chief Beck. You don't want the African-American people to work. It reminds me of the 1965, when President Obama was just talking and marched on the bridge.
Thank you.
Please be courteous, sir. I'm a Ninth Circuit winner. The Honorable Ninth Circuit winner, Michael Hunt. So you guys please respect that.
The next speaker, General Jeff and Luis Mbea.
Good morning. My name is Louise Mbala. I'm part of the Downtown Women Action Coalition. I'm also a member of the Downtown Women Center. And I am for social justice and human rights. And I feel like everyone has the right of security of person, which is Article 3 of the Universal Human Rights Declaration that's at the United Nations. I feel like officers have the right to security of person as well as civilians. I feel like a solution will be to have informational workshops to let the people know about their rights so they don't have to take matters in their own hands. Also, I'd like to have maybe more funding for shelters so you could tell somebody you have an option, you don't have to be in the street, here are more shelters. That's an option. I'm a crime survivor. I'm a victim of crimes. I've been helped by law enforcement, and I'm very thankful and appreciative. I don't want you to think that we are against you. We just want you to be aware of the violence that's on Skid Row and in facilities that are helping or servicing the homeless. I think that these people that serve the homeless should be police because they perpetrate violence and we are the victims. Then the people go in the street, they're angry, they take it out on police. So please investigate and police those shelters, those organizations that are supposed to serve the homeless, because it's a constant state of violence and fear. I'm not afraid of police. They haven't done anything to me personally, but I respect others' lives. Thank you.
Good morning, Commission. My name is General Jeff, a proud Skid Row resident and also a Skid Row community activist, founder of my own organization called Issues and Solutions. The package that I'm passing out to you is the fact that the Los Angeles Police Department, the City of Los Angeles, the LAPD Safer Cities Initiative, and the Los Angeles Police Foundation are all guilty of copyright infringement. In other words, said entities are in violation of unauthorized use of the intellectual property of the Skid Row resident who has actually worked hard with the community to create something that is so important to us, and said entities have used such information for the sole purpose of fundraising with the intent to purchase law enforcement equipment, which can ironically be used to target the very Skid Row residents that have created the intellectual property itself. The intellectual property I speak of is what's on my shirt, the Skid Row City Limit mural. Now, there's evidence here in the packet that LAPD has photoshopped the copyright information with the intent to deceive and create a deception, as if LAPD has used that for the sole purpose of fundraising without consent. No one has contacted me. No one has contacted and asked for permission. And therefore, we're putting you all on notice to let you know that it is downright not right. And we want to start with, we want a public apology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next four speakers, Ted Hayes, and from the overflow room, Pete White, followed by Chris Thomason and Manuela Pedraza.
Mr. Hayes.
Thank you. The General did an excellent job of pointing out that when the department, from chief on down, go before the media, they do not tell the public what they need to know, but they do say what they want us to believe. On that holster, I heard on the media a lawyer representing the officers involved indicating that the gun was in and out of the holster that was being worn by a very strong and large officer. But no one said whether there was any print on the holster, any DNA on the holster. Now, what we need to know, rather than what you want us to believe to know, is what's on the cameras. If they can describe the activities of the officers and the suspects, describe it in the picture. Once they said a picture doesn't lie, but now we know that can't happen. It's called Photoshop. So what we need to know is, what do the body cameras disclose? Are they effective? Do they have a view from two officers that's worthwhile to make a determination as to what happened? Now, on the smart camera, on the smart team, well, what would have happened had they been there? Anything different? Have no idea. But we should have been told what might have happened, what abilities and skills those people have, what they carry with them that ordinary, well-trained officers simply don't possess. We need to know what the SMART team can do, how it would have been more effective had they been there. We need to know something other than the fact that there is such a thing as a SMART team.
Okay, the final four speakers, Samantha Barnes, Eddie Howard, Aaron Collins, and Alani.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aaron Collins. I'm hoping I'm stepping. Well, okay, yeah, my name is Aaron Collins. I'm a Skid Row resident recently, and I just wanted to say that, first of all, we understand that it's a tough job, being a police officer. We get that. We understand what you deal with. But we're not the enemy. I mean, we're trying to make it in life like everyone else. A lot of times that we're in Skid Row because we either live in shelters or in tents. Some of us lost our homes. But just because we lost our homes doesn't mean we lost our humanity. We're still human beings. And sometimes, though, when we're standing in line, going into our shelters, wherever we're doing, sometimes, just to see the police just going by, circling the area and just looking at us like animals, it's quite dehumanizing. I mean, we're not at the zoo. We want to be treated, with respect. I'm noticing what it says on the wall here. Respect for all people. Well, we're still people. I mean, but my challenge, however, to you, Chief Beck, Steven Soperoff, matter of fact, to all you commissioners here, I got a challenge for you. Come from behind this desk and take a walk down 6th and San Pedro. Come take a walk down Wall Street, down San Julian, and you see through our eyes what we see every day. It's quite depressing. I understand that. But this is what we deal with. And to deal with, so some people, it's kind of intimidating when uniformed officers come in mass just to deal with one issue. Something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Eddie Howard, founder and president of Just Love Outreach, under the mantra, no matter who, no matter what, with a noble principle. I just want to give the light to a certain couple of issues. First is the issue of policing, as it relates to the killing and shootings of unarmed African Americans, not only in California but throughout this country. We minimize policing if we just leave it in that vein, in that prism. But we must talk about the mentality behind the policing in our communities. The same training for police officers who patrol South Central, also get the same training for the police officers that patrol Beverly Hills, Brentwood. But you don't have those instances of violence against individuals in those communities. So we need to ask ourselves a question, why? And there are many reasons why. And I think one reason that we gloss over often and we don't want to talk about it is the racial aspect of it. And the fact of the matter is that there is a racial aspect, and has to be, because the killing of unarmed individuals usually look like me, and those individuals who usually do the killing look like Chief Beck. So we need to start to ask if there needs to be some training in terms of the mental aspect of these officers do their job. And lastly, Mr. Bustamante, I was in a meeting with you at the Newton Center, Newton Station, about a month ago, and we talked about Citizens Review Board, and I asked you that question. And you answered that question to me at that particular time, that police departments and throughout the country are moving away from citizen review boards. Now, we heard some conversations concerning that today, and I just want that to be illuminated, that in the background, you guys are actually talking about disbanding those review boards and not even looking to them any further as well. And lastly, on the issue of mental health, it has been said about the Skid Row community that it's an insane asylum. That was said by the senior lead officer, Deion Joseph of the Central Division, and we know that we are in a mental health crisis. I worked in mental health. I managed facilities for mental health individuals, and I did extensive training. I had 10 individuals, 15 individuals that worked under me, and we did ongoing training. And I understand, even in that meeting, we talked about the training that police officers get. It was like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, which is not nearly enough. What the SMART team can do, it can de-escalate situations. What the SMART team can do, it can allow that individual time to think about what he or she is doing. What the SMART team can also do, it can be non-combative to those individuals. We understand that oftentimes police come out and they are in a combative mode. We need for these issues to be addressed. Here again, I heard people say that we're not against police officers, and we're not. in totality, but we're against those police officers that come into our communities, that don't live in our communities, and use our communities for purposes that are nefarious. And it needs to stop. It needs to stop. But I will also say this in closing, that there is a segment of the population that is willing to work with those officers and those chiefs who are willing to sit down and listen and maintain a certain level of respect for us.
Thank you, sir.
Go, Eddie.
Hi, my name is Alani, and just so you all know, I actually snuck in here. I had to sneak in with speakers that had filled out a card and waited in the other room, and then got called to come speak in here. What's up with that? Why do I have to sneak into a police commission meeting? There are less than 12 people in that overflow room, and there are more than 30 seats in this room. What are your tactics? Who do you work for? I'm here not because I believe you will do anything about our concerns, but to warn you about the actions I will personally take to expose your lack of community outreach, those body camera hearings that you all had. Unfortunately, at that time when you had those body camera hearings, I could already foresee this moment where Africa, unfortunately somebody had to die and it was caught on body cameras, and where Chief Beck, you openly said that we won't have access to these body cameras. I already foresaw the problem in this whole show that you all are putting on. Your lack of true representation of civilians and your lack of accountability. This is what I'm going to be exposing. This is why I'm here, to warn you, to let you know, to give you a heads up. You have so much power and looked at as a model all around the nation. That's a shame to me, because I'm not doing my job and really putting it out there that you are not a model. You're the exact opposite of the model that you would not to be. All of you up here, I use you specifically as examples of what not to be in your position. I know your exact tactics, and they look a lot like LAPD.
Thank you.
You
Next.
try to shut us up,
Is that the last?
divide
That's
us,
the last card, sir.
and then continue to represent us.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item number 10A1, 10A and 10B in accordance with Government Code 54957.
Hi, I'm Jen Mahoney in Studio City. You're watching LA City View Channel 35, where you can get the best in culture and arts. It's our city, it's our channel.
Hey, just go!
Hello, welcome to Connie Martinson Talks Books. I'm holding a book that is what I would call a book forever. It's written by my guest, Barbara